Hello, and welcome back to another day of art. Our goal today is I can explain how portraits are used throughout history. I can see how the pose and expression of a subject changes how the viewer sees them in a picture. A portrait is a piece of art where the subject is a person. Today we can get portraits easily with a camera. In fact, we usually get one every year that goes in the yearbook when we are at school. Before the camera, however, it was very uncommon to get a portrait of yourself. Those who had power and wealth were able to hire artists to create portraits of them and their family. They would get possibly one at their birth and another when they became an adult. Can you imagine only getting 2 images of yourself today? Since these portraits were painted, they would need to sit for hours at a time while the artist created their portrait. This process could go on for months while you wait for your portrait to be made. This is often why portraits of the past did not include smiling people. Could you hold a smile for hours on end? We don't need to worry about that as much anymore because we can always take a photo in an instant of a subject and use it to draw from or use the photo itself as a portrait. However, for this lesson, we are not focusing on drawing other people, we are focusing on drawing ourselves. This would be called a self-portrait because it is a portrait of the artist, which is you. We are all artists and have the ability to create our own self-portraits, so this week we will be talking about what a portrait can show about a person as well as how we can draft and plan to create our own over the next 2 weeks of art class. Self-portraits are beneficial for a few different reasons. The first one is that we always have our model, which is ourselves, ready to use as a reference. You can use a mirror and stare at your face in real time. I had to do this in college, which was really hard because I wiggle around a lot when I draw, so I was always moving. You can also use a photo of yourself, which is what we'll be doing for this project. Another reason that self-portraits are beneficial is they can show the progress as you grow as an artist. Examples of this are Rembrandt and Van Gogh. As you look at these pictures, you can see the progression of their art as they age, as well as how even though they change over time, their style changes with them. Lastly, self-portraits can be beneficial because they can be very symbolic. They can allow us to see ourselves in a different way because we have to reference images of ourselves and see our faces for longer periods of time than we are used to. If you drew a self-portrait of yourself right now without looking, you would only remember key features, like maybe your hair goes a certain way, you have glasses on, the coloring of your eyes and your hair. When you don't have a reference, you only really notice the features that stand out. But when you have a reference, you are able to pick out all those little details and make a more accurate representation of who you are. People often don't smile in portraits because they took so long to create. However, the poses that they are in can also tell us about the person. These are called non-verbal cues. Non-verbal cues are a way to be able to tell how someone is feeling or thinking without them saying a word. Have you ever been able to tell that someone is angry just from looking at them? Their face may be scrunched up, they just look very tight or tense, and their shoulders are stiff. And if you thought about pushing them, they probably wouldn't budge an inch. These are examples of nonverbal cues we all give off. On the opposite end, if someone is really happy, what would those cues look like? They may be smiling, and their body will seem very loose, and their eyes might even crinkle, which usually shows happiness. It's important to be aware of these nonverbal connections when we are making art because the way we draw someone can give off specific emotions. Facing away and not completely facing the camera can symbolize that you are mysterious or hiding something as part of your face is hidden from the viewer. Whereas when you are facing the viewer fully, you are showing that you have nothing to hide. Eye contact is similar to the way that you are facing when you face the viewer head on, as it creates a power struggle and shows that you are strong, whereas eyes that look away can show that you are avoiding the viewer. What we will do today as a response is I want you to do a 3-2-1 response. So that means 3 things that were interesting to you so far, 2 things that you learned from this lesson, and 1 thing that you are still unsure about. Once you have those responses ready, you can submit them to this discussion. It could be something interesting is you found out why nobody smiles in all those old portraits, or something that you learned was that you can get more details if you have a reference, or something that's confusing is, Miss Danny, how are we going to make a portrait of ourselves? Let me know in your responses down below. That is all that I have for you today. Have a great day and I will see you tomorrow. Bye!